The Web of the Forest, a lesson in interdependence. In a vast, ancient forest, there lived a wise old owl named Orin, known throughout the woods for his knowledge and insight. Orin often watched over the creatures of the forest from the high branches of his oak tree, observing the delicate balance that held the forest together. The forest was home to countless animals, from the smallest ants to the mighty deer, all of whom had their place in the great web of life. However, many of these creatures did not understand the depth of their connection to one another. Some, like a proud squirrel named Pierrot, believed they were independent, self-sufficient, and needed no one else to thrive. Pierrot was fast, agile, and cunning. He spent his days gathering acorns, storing them in secret places that no one else could find. He would often boast to his fellow squirrels, saying, "I don't need anyone's help. I've gathered enough food for myself, and I can survive on my own without relying on others." One day, as Pierrot scampered through the forest, he overheard a conversation between two rabbits about the coming winter. The rabbits were worried about the shortage of food and how the cold season might affect them. Pierrot smirked as he passed by, thinking to himself, "I'm prepared. I have nothing to fear from winter." As the days grew shorter and the air colder, winter finally arrived. The forest, once full of life, became quiet and still, blanketed in snow. Pierrot, confident in his preparations, set out to retrieve the acorns he had buried. But as he searched through the snow-covered ground, he quickly realized a problem. Many of the places where he had hidden his acorns were buried too deep under the snow, or worse, they had been disturbed by other animals in search of food. Days passed, and Pierrot found fewer and fewer of his hidden acorns. He grew hungry and weak, but his pride kept him from asking for help. "I can do this on my own," he kept telling himself. One evening, as the cold wind howled through the forest, Pierrot found himself near the oak tree where Orin the owl lived. He was shivering from the cold and too weak to continue searching for food. Orin, noticing the struggling squirrel below, flew down and landed gracefully in front of him. "Pierrot," Orin said softly, "I've watched you for many seasons, always believing you could stand alone. But now, you see that everything in this forest is connected. No one survives here alone." Pierrot, exhausted and desperate, finally admitted the truth. "I thought I was strong enough to survive on my own, but I was wrong. I don't understand how others make it through the winter when everything seems so separate." Orin smiled gently and led Pierrot to a clearing where the snow was light. "Look around you," Orin said. "The trees provide shelter for the birds, who spread seeds and help new plants grow. The insects feed on the plants, while the predators keep the balance by hunting the weak. The deer graze on the undergrowth, making space for smaller plants to thrive. And even you, Pierrot, play a role in spreading acorns, ensuring the forest's oak trees continue to grow." Pierrot looked around, realizing for the first time how every part of the forest was connected. Even the smallest creatures had a role to play, and every action affected the others in ways he hadn't noticed before. "But what does that mean for me?" Pierrot asked, his pride still bruised. "It means," Orin replied, "that you are part of this great web of life. The acorns you hide feed more than just you. Birds, mice, and even the soil benefit from the seeds you plant. In return, the forest provides for you. The snow that covers the ground may hide your acorns, but it also nourishes the soil that helps the trees grow. Everything here is interdependent, Pierrot. No one survives in isolation, not even you." Pierrot sat quietly, absorbing Orin's words. He realized that he had been too focused on his own survival to see how much he relied on the forest around him. His food, his home, and even his well-being were tied to the lives of others. The next day, Pierrot did something he had never done before. He sought out the other animals in the forest, those he had once ignored, and asked them for help. The rabbits showed him where to dig for hidden roots. The birds pointed him to berries still clinging to frozen bushes, and even the deer brushed away the snow, revealing patches of grass beneath. In return, Piro shared the few acorns he had found, helping those who were also struggling in the harsh winter. Together, the animals of the forest survived the cold months, not because of their individual strength, but because of their collective efforts. Piro learned that while he had once believed in standing alone, it was the connections between all creatures that allowed them to thrive. When spring finally arrived, the forest came back to life, and Piro found himself more grateful than ever for the web of relationships that surrounded him. He no longer saw himself as separate from the others, but as a vital part of a greater whole. From that season on, Piro lived with a new understanding. Everything in the forest was interdependent, and true strength came from recognizing and honoring those connections. And as the forest continued to grow and flourish, so too did Piro, who had learned that survival was not about standing alone, but about standing together.